I was at Stantonbury from 1979 to 1982. It was my first teaching post, and I've always said that it was hugely important to my development as a person and certainly as a teacher. But the thing that actually influenced the progress of my work was going on in the foreground of Stantonbury Campus, but very much in my background. And it was something I dismissed, my kind of inverted snobbery. Saw it as academic, and I wasn't part of that. I was doing these big fun musicals with masses of kids and writing songs that were going to be very popular. And what was going on in the foreground of Stantonbury, but in my background, was what Roy Nevitt, my head of department, was doing. And Roy ran the adult drama group, and he did something which sounded very academic. It was called documentary theatre, and that very title put me off and made me think that I'd have to have a degree and be all clever to do it. How wrong I was. And I became a convert to it in my second year there. When one of the young people who was involved in a small way in my youth theatre had the part of Albert French, who was the subject of one of the stories that Roy did. Albert French was a soldier from World War I who managed to get into the army 2 years before he should have done so, at the age of 16. And the production centres around the letters that he sent home, which were discovered somewhere in the local place, Wolverton. Now, Roy's theory was, and it worked beautifully, was that Milton Keynes was a new city and it needed to bring its community together. And stories can bring people together. So he wanted to get the community of Milton Keynes to tell the stories of Milton Keynes to the people of Milton Keynes, and this was a perfect example of this. I went along thinking I wouldn't understand it because it sounded so academic, but I went along purely because Neil Canham was in the production playing this part. I was absolutely converted in one evening, in about 3/4 of an hour. I think it was about a 40-minute production. What happened was I saw a production where I was watching Neil, and that was brilliant because he was a fantastic performer. But I was also watching the performance, so I was imagining the performance and imagining the original setting of the performance in World War I, in the trenches and so on. But also I was imagining the moments that Albert took to write these letters, and imagining the people back at home reading the letters as they arrived. So these three things really helped my flitty attention span, and I was able to flip between them, watching, oh, that Neil's good, and then suddenly the trenches and the imagination of that, and then also the actual writing of the real letters and how they transformed these real words from these letters into a play. It was a magical experience. And Roy's production ended after 40 minutes all of a sudden, and it ended because he was killed very prematurely, and that's what happened. And it was like, oh my God, that was it. It was one of the most profound theatrical experiences I'd ever had. He went on to do another production that I saw in my final year at Stantonbury. I was only there for 3 years, called Days of Pride, about Horton Mundy, who was another soldier. And I heard in the background, again, Roy talked about Peter Cheeseman from Stoke-on-Trent, who ran the Victoria Theatre, Stoke-on-Trent, and the stories that they did from the potteries. And he talked to people. And I went away from this thinking, this is something I could do. His kind of catchphrase was, dig where you stand. So we had the Living Archive project, dig where you stand. I applied for a job in Epping, got the job and decided, right, when I move, I'm going to do some of these documentary plays. and really, really, really wanted to do it, but felt I could never do that on Roy's patch because he did them so well. So I could never compete with that. But I was really eager to use them. And having written Blackout, I thought this is, and done the transcription of the improvisations the kids had done, I felt, yeah, I could do this. I could speak to people, but what I'd want to do is much more contemporary stories. I could speak to people, get their stories, and arrange a script. It was like another protected way into being a writer. I've only got a CSE grade 1 in English and a CSE grade 2 in English literature. I certainly didn't have the confidence of being a writer, but I could chat to people, I could do interviews. So that was my little germ of an idea. I arrived at Epping, St John's School in Epping, to a drama department that was really, really dilapidated. There had been a bit of a scandal with the previous teacher, and the department had been run by a previous head of department who had lost his interest in it. And he said to me on the day I was interviewed, "You'll never get drama going here." And I said, "Yes, I will." And he said, "You won't, you'll burn yourself out." I did not burn myself out, but I did get it going. And my way of starting was to do something I was really confident with. So I started off that September, and people said to me, "Don't do a production in your first term." Yeah, absolutely do a production in your first term. Get loads of people involved. Blackout was fantastic. It was a production about the evacuees. I could have a huge cast. I could get lots of people on side, lots of enthusiasm, and make this a really special production. But I wanted to add something that would make it different to the one I did at Stantonbury. So using the story that I'd already got, I put out a note in the local press saying, "Were you an evacuee?" and asking people to come forward to give me their stories, and then use those stories alongside the existing script to kind of mirror what was going on with Rachel. So I had a number of people come forward. Derek Marlowe was one, and this is Derek's account that I started to use, and you can see I've put various markings on that, underlined things. These were bits I'd use. Point number 3 in the script, I'd use this bit, and they are the original transcripts, handwritten, that I did of those evacuees. So did that. It made the production so much richer, so much richer. And I felt, yeah, this is really working. Had the auditions, brilliant number of people turned up. I think we probably had 50 or 60 people turn up. We did the production, interesting design. I think that was done by John Rowley, one of my key people in youth theatre. Either John Rowley, this looks like a John Rowley drawing, could be, yeah, I think that's a John Rowley drawing. One Evacuee in Thousands, Blackout, One Evacuee in Thousands. Lots of pictures of us rehearsing it. Still, I'd written the songs, so the main thing for me was promoting my songs. I didn't really see myself at all as a scriptwriter. We staged it, had some people in the youth theatre who managed to do those lovely kind of drawings at the back. I can remember them coming in, so no real involvement from other adults that I can remember, though maybe someone will correct me and say there was. I think someone going to do the lighting. But the unique thing about Blackout as a musical was that I could arrange that my best actors weren't necessarily singers, so I could organise that they didn't get singing in their part. So the person who played Rachel's dad, for example, had no singing to do. He was one of the best actors, and back at Stantonbury it was Mark Eagle. In Epping Youth Theatre, it was Barry. He actually happened to be a singer, but he played that part. It didn't have to sing. And we gave singing parts to two people who, well, one person who didn't want to act particularly was Bernadette, who had the most amazing voice, and to Matt Allen, who became an actor eventually, and toured Too Much Punch for Judy for years and years and years. And they said the evacuees parts from the side. We managed to get fantastic publicity from it. A review in the Times Educational Supplement that said they could almost imagine Vera Lynn stepping in at the interval. We had absolutely stunning reviews. And this production, Blackout, One Evacuee in Thousands, which you can see on YouTube in full, fantastic production done a number of years later by the Eastleigh Borough Youth Theatre, So just search Blackout. I think it's called Operation Pied Piper. Search that and have a look. But it's a great production. And for people who want to have actors who don't sing, singers who don't act, and some roles where actors do sing. So have a look at that. But also, it gave me the opportunity or the encouragement, the confidence to have a go at writing a proper documentary or verbatim play. And that's what I did next when I started the work on Graham Salmon, Graham, World's Fastest Blind Runner, although in this first instance, it was called Race to be Seen. And that will be the next episode. Thank you very much.